Welcome to the 2013 State of the City for Duluth, Minnesota. For decades, economic and demographic changes in America have largely disadvantaged older industrial cities. As people moved south into the coast, Midwest cities were neglected as a relic of a lost era. As people moved out to the suburbs of major metropolitan areas, mid-sized cities were merely an afterthought in the national discussion. But these trends are changing. The reemergence of American industry, dramatic changes in the labor force, and the priorities of a younger generations entering the workforce are all serving to redefine the economic landscape for the decade to come. National experts are pointing to the increased importance of skill availability as a key variable in determining population and job growth across the country. While employers are becoming increasingly concerned with their ability to find qualified workers, these sought-after employees can find work anywhere. Increasingly, companies are choosing to locate in the places where these talented employees want to live, rather than the other way around. While major metro areas continue to dominate this discussion, there's another set of cities that have captured the attention of national opinion leaders who have recognized a unique set of characteristics that meet the needs of employers and employees alike. These mid-sized cities fill a unique and authentic niche in the fabric of modern American life. They strike a healthy balance between big city life and the quality of life of the suburbs. These cities offer both vibrancy and intimacy, both spectacular natural beauty and opportunity for career success. These cities most often have a strong university presence, world-class outdoor recreation, vibrant arts and nightlife, and evoke a deep emotional connection to the place. Duluth is a premier example of this type of city in the upper Midwest. After decades of struggle and decline, there's a growing recognition and appreciation of the strengths and attributes of this beautiful industrial city built upon a hill overlooking the greatest of the Great Lakes. More importantly, Duluth is well positioned to meet the workforce needs of American business. These attributes put Duluth right in the middle of this emerging national discussion. It's not just a theory. We're already seeing the benefits as the national economy recovers. We're seeing early signs of what may be Duluth's greatest economic expansion since the 1950s. This progress is evident in several sectors. For example, not only did the aviation industry in Duluth survive the recession, but now it's thriving, and the future of the local industry has never been brighter. Multinational corporation AAR chose Duluth over several cities across the nation and will soon employ over 225 aircraft technicians. New ownership at Cirrus chose to invest $100 million into the company and the new jet. Kestrel Aircraft chose Superior over several East Coast cities and will be bringing over 600 jobs to the Twin Ports in the coming years. The Air Force chose the 148th Air National Guard, based in Duluth, as one of only a handful of National Guard units to establish an active association, which will bring 60 new active duty Air Force jobs to the base. Speaking of aviation, Duluth opened the doors to a new state-of-the-art airport terminal in January. 2012 was the second busiest passenger year in the history of the airport, and that was flying out of the old terminal. Now, with increased destinations, more business travel into Duluth, and with the greatly improved experience of flying out of Duluth, it won't be long before the new passenger record is established. Duluth is also quickly becoming a national hub for the engineering industry. Firms like Barr Engineering, LHB, Enbridge, and Lake Superior Consulting have hired over 400 new employees over the last few years, and that growth looks to continue. These firms are doing business all across North America, and yet are based right here in Duluth because of UMD's world-class engineering department and the fact that Duluth is a city where young engineers want to live. Duluth's position as a major regional center for healthcare, higher education, retail, and business services has never been stronger. Duluthians benefit from having these high-quality services right in town, and these industries are growing, creating new jobs and investment. Business leaders both locally and across the nation are looking to Duluth as a good investment. Throughout this recession, the unemployment rate in Duluth was significantly better than the national average, primarily because local employers continued to hire. Now, as the economy improves, we're seeing a surge of interest from businesses across the state and nation looking to expand their business in Duluth. As the market scrambles to meet demand for new housing and commercial development, Duluth's building sector is continuing a remarkable run. In fact, over the past 5 years, there's been over $740 million of construction. That's more than any other 5-year period in Duluth's history. It's especially noticeable since the national construction industry saw huge declines during that same period. Duluth was the exception to that rule. That construction progress will continue in 2013 with projects including the Bluestone Development, Lang Motor Building, North Shore Theater, the DTA's multimodal station, a number of housing projects, and of course the largest investment in downtown Duluth's history, the $80 million Duluth Corporate Tower. Speaking of the Corporate Tower, it's important that we note the growth and success of Maurice's, the development partner and primary tenant of the tower. Maurice's has been in Duluth since its inception in 1931. And like many other Duluth companies, Maurice's has thrived even in the depths of this recession. Based on strong local leadership and the talent of associates based here in Duluth, Maurice's has gained market share, increased profits, and has opened 43 new stores in the past 12 months, reaching a new total of 840 stores nationwide. With these and other exciting developments, it's clear that we've finally turned an important corner, and Duluth is ready to take a significant, even historic, leap forward. But our path is not a straight line. As we know all too well, while our full potential is ahead of us, there are plenty of challenges standing in our way. Some of them are well established, others that can emerge and threaten to knock us off course without warning.
Yeah, we had 2 different rescues we did this morning here. Okay. This is going to be a long problem for these folks here. Yeah, it is.
On June 19th, the skies opened up, and for 24 hours, a relentless rain fell. On the morning of June 20th, the devastation was clear. Streams overflowed, and storm sewer systems were overwhelmed, forcing water into our streets, our businesses, our churches, and our homes. Huge sections of roads caved in, and some washed away altogether. Bridges were submerged and culverts filled with washed-up debris. Most devastating of all, homes were flooded out and precious belongings destroyed. The neighborhood hardest hit in Duluth was Fond du Lac on the far southern end of Duluth, along the St. Louis River. Residents were forced to abandon their homes and wait for the water to recede, putting a tremendous strain on families. In neighborhoods like Fond du Lac, people struggled with the emotional burden of seeing damage to their homes and belongings, and facing uncertainty of how they might be able to recover from this devastation. Entire neighborhoods were evacuated as emergency response teams were working around the clock to protect everyone's safety. This was an extremely dangerous flash flood, with overflowing streams, collapsing culverts, and washed-out streets. And yet, due to the heroic efforts of our coordinated emergency response, there were no lives lost. It's an extraordinary achievement, and our thanks go out to each and every person who worked to maintain safety during the chaos of those early days. From the emergency response of Duluth Police and Fire to the rebuilding process, the high level of professionalism of city employees all across all departments has been nothing short of remarkable. The quality of the response is in one sense a reflection of the improving health of city government. The critical reform efforts over the past 5 years have led to a hard-earned stability and a culture of ownership that are not only the foundation for improved service on a day-to-day basis, but the improved health and strength of the organization was also critical in providing quality flood response.
And I see that this is an opportunity for Duluthians to stand up and to be resilient and to lift up our neighbors and to roll up our sleeves and to pitch into cleaning up our city.
My first year as mayor in 2008, Duluth City government faced enormous challenges. Budget problems felt overwhelming and at times unsolvable. We faced a $6 million deficit, a $378 million unfunded retiree health care liability, and we were being sued by the EPA for sewer overflows into Lake Superior that would require $80 million to fix. The problems were compounded by massive cuts from the state, rising operational costs, and the Fond du Lac Band's decision to withhold $6 million annually from the city. While we didn't know it, we're also on the verge of what turned out to be the longest and most devastating recession since the Great Depression. Unfortunately, Duluth's toxic political environment at the time made these huge problems all the more daunting and difficult to solve. And yet, we did solve them. We took full ownership of decades-long problems and made the tough but necessary decisions to finally solve these problems at their source. Here's a few examples of the progress we've made. The general fund budget in 2009 was $81 million. In each of the last 4 years, the general fund has been reduced and now is less than $74 million for 2013. This reduction in the budget has happened despite the rising cost of materials, pensions, and huge increase in healthcare costs. Despite the reduced budgets, we've been able to further reduce expenditures during each fiscal year in order to rebuild our general fund reserves from a negative $1.3 million in 2008 to a forecasted $7.7 million reserve in 2013. That's a $9 million improvement, and we met our 10% reserve goal for the first time since 2001. In 2008, the city carried $50 million of old street improvement debt. We committed to paying that down. By committing to a pay-as-you-go system and aggressively paying off debt as it came due, the city has been able to reduce this debt by $31 million. That's a 60% decline in street improvement debt. The city's retiree health care benefit obligations threatened to bankrupt the city. If no changes had been made, the unfunded liability would be $378 million today. After restructuring the benefits in a court case that went all the way to the Minnesota Supreme Court, we've cut the liability in half. It still poses a massive challenge, so we've begun to set aside money for the future liability. That fund is now up to $35 million, including $7 million from interest payments generated by placing the funds into a designated trust. Throughout Duluth's entire history, we've allowed untreated sewage to flow into Lake Superior and the St. Louis River when it rained. In 2001 alone, over 6.9 million gallons of sewer overflows entered the lake and the river. Over the past 5 years, we've taken extraordinary measures to completely eliminate sanitary sewer overflows in 2013. Because of the outstanding efforts of our staff, we are 3 years ahead of schedule, and we've been able to reduce the costs to ratepayers by $45 million. These issues represent historic accomplishments made possible by the dedicated efforts of city staff. We're rightfully proud of their success in addressing these massive problems. I want to give special thanks to those city councilors willing to make tough decisions and largely avoid the political games that have burdened our city for too long. Being a city councilor can be a difficult and thankless job, so thank you for everything that you do to make Duluth a better place. We look forward to working with President Boyle and the rest of the council in the coming year. A few years back, we established a motto for our city operations: own it, solve it, take pride. City employees have embodied these principles by finding innovative solutions and taking personal pride in the quality of their work. In late 2011, residents passed the Parks Referendum by a strong margin, which has led to noticeable improvements to city parks and trails, as well as restored library hours and vastly increased usage. The past year has filled our plate with huge challenges and opportunities. In the coming year, we must address both with equal amounts of focus, energy, and commitment. It'll be a year where we roll up our sleeves and do the unglamorous behind-the-scenes work to make sure that the projects we started in 2012 are done well. We'll also take on a new set of challenges in 2013. The availability of quality workforce housing is quickly becoming a significant problem. We must double our efforts to meet the workforce needs of our local employers, and we'll put effort into creating additional economic development. But the heaviest lifting in 2013 will be the continuation of our flood recovery and rebuilding efforts. From reconstructing damaged roads and bridges to helping repair homes and businesses, much work remains. Our trails, streams, parks, and the Lake Superior Zoo were hit especially hard and will be a focal point for us this year. We've talked about the city's response to the flood, but the response from local and national nonprofit organizations, our local business community, and our community foundations has been outstanding. We want to recognize every organization in our region that has shown such great leadership during the aftermath of this crisis. We thank you. Perhaps most impressive of all has been the larger community response. Neighbors helping neighbors, even while dealing with their own hardship. The entire region coming together to assist those most in need. Volunteers logged thousands of hours cleaning up the storm's aftermath. This historic disaster has demonstrated the strength, resiliency, and compassion of our community. But much of the recovery work is still ahead of us, and the generosity of citizens will continue to be the most important factor. Folks are still struggling, and in many cases, The state and federal funds aren't designed to address these unmet needs. Once again, our community needs to respond. I hope you'll consider making a financial contribution at unitedwayduluth.org. These funds are absolutely critical in helping to address unmet needs of families still struggling with the effects of the flood. Nothing is a better measure of a community than how it responds to a disaster. As devastating as the flood has been, it's demonstrated our spirit, strength, and resiliency, and will continue to through 2013 and until the day that we fully recovered from this tragic event. These are exciting times in Duluth. A new economic reality is rapidly approaching. After decades of these national trends working against cities like Duluth, we're beginning to see a fundamental shift that will give tremendous advantage to our city, but only if we're prepared to seize the opportunity to promote and enhance our unique advantages and ensure that Duluth will be able to offer the talent and skills that become the driving force in job creation. In many ways, 2013 marks the end of a chapter in Duluth's history. In 2014, we'll begin to write the next chapter, a new era in Duluth, defined less by the problems facing our city and more by our strengths. As always, I thank you for allowing me the great honor of serving the community that we all love so much. Let's have a great 2013, and I hope to see you around town. So this is the first year that we've attempted this video format, and we've learned a lot in the process of creating the address. One thing that we've learned is that it's much easier to tell a broader story with the video, but it's a little bit more difficult to get into some of the details that folks might expect from a State of the City address. In light of this, we encourage you to go to Duluth2013.com to find additional details on the specific issues facing the city and to leave your feedback. Thanks again for watching.
us lonely, it ain't a sin to want something better than the shape you're in. The rain came at the break of day. Your light in the window, babe, said come on in. It's a broken heart, babe, I know the sound. Feels like your hands are nailed to the ground. It'll pass just